See my shirt?
No. What is that? A Fazari shirt?
Oh yeah.
So, dude,
It's a pretty nice sweatshirt.
I know it's a nice sweatshirt. Sarah got one.
Oh, you didn't get one?
No.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
I don't know what
I got
happened.
a nice note from Jordan too.
Yeah, Jordan.
Handwritten, beautiful.
Jordan sent a nice note to Sarah.
Very beautiful sentiments. Guy hit me right in my freaking
right in the feels.
Right in the feels, dude. Got me.
Yeah, I didn't get any. I was all fired up, dude, because I thought I was getting one, and the box showed up, and I didn't. So
they must be going to send you something else.
Yeah,
they don't have anything special enough for you.
Yeah, that's funny.
You and Richie Schley.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to send a message to Richie and ask him what he got. So,
hey Richie, how's your sweatshirt fit? Is it a little tighter in the middle?
All right. Well, we got 14 people. I wasn't sure how this one was going to go because
several people have hit me up asking where it's, whose channel it's going to be on and whatever. And so
you need to get a little better about the link, dude.
Yeah, I tried. I don't know how to freaking. I tried to copy it, and then when I went to try,
you can't copy a link. So when you go to your stories and you tap the box to put like a GIF or something in, there's a place that says link.
Oh, okay.
And so when you click on link, you put the link in. And then
it's a great conversation we could have had before now.
Yeah.
Hey, Jen, can you grab me a bubble water, please? Or just bring me my my tumbler.
Oh, your tumbler. I have a tumbler as well, Rob. Do you know what's in my tumbler? Take a guess.
I'm guessing it is LMNT.
It's Elementi. It's orange Elementi.
And
no, this video is not sponsored by Element. Others are, and I'm very clear to say when those videos are sponsored by Element, which means they actually pay.
Whoops.
Oh, Old English? What is that? BC? British Columbia?
Hang on.
DBC. Oh, wow.
DBC, little Rob down there.
Interesting.
You'll know when it's mine.
Interesting. All right, we're up to 20 now.
This was the company Christmas present this year.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
For the DBC crew. They didn't leave empty-handed. They didn't get any money, but they didn't leave empty-handed.
I don't know. Casey, I don't even know what that means, dude. And I don't know if I want to know what it means. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Chris Ashley on a 3-hour drive. Pat Hoffman is up in. Ryan Paloma. Dude, Ryan got out this morning. Sub-freezing temperatures.
Ryan, you are a stunt man, my friend.
He is. Austin Bickford.
Austin Bickford, yeah, bro. He accepted my friend request on Facebook.
That's a mistake.
Yeah.
Andy, of course, he's making Jen fetch the bubble water because he's a fancy guy.
I'm so fancy.
Austin.
You already know.
Austin might be a good part of this conversation because a couple of things.
It's been a while, buddy.
About. Oh, and of course, Jason Blodgett.
Blodgett.
Again, Jason, we got to get you set up for when you're coming on to talk all things suspension. And we'll have to do that soon because I'm really going to try to make this a once a week sort of deal. And we'll do everything we can to make it happen. So I'm not surprised you had a lot of people say that they were going to be on here. I had a lot of people say that they were going to be on this. And we've talked about this. We've kind of danced around how this would be a bit of a, I don't even want to say volatile, but I thought it would be a topic that would stir a little bit of debate. But you know what else, dude? I started thinking about it a little bit more. And I don't know that our viewing audience, I don't know if it's really for them. And the reason I say that is I don't think we're talking to a lot of younger people or people who aspire for sponsorship. And I could be totally wrong. And
no, but I think even people in my demographic, if they enjoy riding bikes like I do, it gets expensive. So just think if you could find a way to get your tires covered or your chains covered, you're not expecting maybe a check in the mail, but if you could just get or even mitigate some of those costs, like I think of what Action does for me. So my local bike shop that I like to support is Action because they got my back. Those guys take care of me and they do a good job of stocking the things I need. And the difference, they can't give me stuff and they got to make some money. I get it. They've got bills to pay. And so I am happy to pay, but I appreciate every percentage discount that they can give me on things that I can't get. A perfect example is I've got to buy new shoes. I really like the Giro Chamber 2s. I've been thrilled with them. And they haven't had my size in stock, but I'm going to have to order some and I'm going to have to pay for them. So,
man, this is hard. It's hard to keep this contained because that statement almost pushes me into one of the questions that we got. That's a great question, but I don't know.
Spit it out, man. Spit it out.
No, I know. I want to try to keep this. First and foremost, I want it to be positive. Like at the end of this, I want everybody to leave and say, "Oh, that was positive." But I think underlying is going to be realistic, and I don't know. Like that's a tough one. Some people don't want realism. But whatever, we can get into it. Let's talk about goals, I guess. We'll start with that. I don't know what you're laughing at.
Josh Bloom just sent a message. He says, Yellowstone season finale, Packers versus Vikings or the Drew brothers? It's got to be the Drew brothers, buddy. Come on.
What, dude? No, let's be honest. Packers, I don't know what Yellowstone is.
I don't follow baseball, dude.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, let's talk goals. And I think goals are great. I applaud goals, but when I broke down my notes here, I think goals need to be realistic. And again, we've talked about this for a while. I'm a big fan of putting it out there. And when I started racing mountain bikes, I had a pretty defined path and I tried to find a picture. I had a notebook and I wrote down everything I wanted to accomplish and when I wanted to accomplish it. And I really wish I could find the picture I took or even that book because I did all those things. And I did them in the time frame roughly that I was after. But when I looked back, none of them were unrealistic for me. Literally, I said, I want to have a factory contract with somebody. And I didn't think that was unrealistic. Now, for a lot of people, I don't think that's a realistic thing. And does that mean they shouldn't aspire for that goal? I don't necessarily think. And again, who am I to say? I'm just giving my opinion on it. But I think being realistic with those goals is very important. And
I agree. And it's things like, instead of saying, I want to get a KOM on such and such trail, what about a PR? That's a more reasonable goal. And that's a goal that you can keep achieving. And it's like, maybe you can't hit a home run, but it's a base hit. And that's a movement in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that just for me, where I'm at and what I'm trying to do, everybody's goals are unique to them, but it's funny because the three topics that we're talking about, goals, social media, and sponsorship, as I made the notes of what I wanted to talk about, I realized how intertwined those things are. And so goals, people put these goals out there, I think, that maybe they do want to manifest, but part of it is putting them out there. Like they put out these audacious goals that build up some, I don't even want to say hype, but it engages, and it's something that then people can, I think, almost the thought of manifesting them or the role of trying to manifest them becomes who they are. And for me, it's just kind of a bummer. I feel bad for those people because they're not really living in the moment. They're doing everything they can to create a facade of a facade, so to speak, if that makes any sense.
You lost me with the facade of a facade.
Basically, it's not going to happen. Like for me, dude, like if I put out a goal and said, dude, I'm going to go ride BME and I'm going to go for a top 5 in the pro class. That's foolish. Like there's no basis for me to say that. Yeah. And then if I do it like pictures in the gym and out riding and cool, I'm getting ready, dude, I'm training.
Well, but here's the thing. That's the type of thing you could do. So much of the negotiation and the sponsorship thing it's like a chess game. And so if you look the part, if you walk like a duck and you quack like a duck, you might get somebody to bite on the hook. And it's your deal is like, if it's an annual contract, you get the contract and then you don't deliver on what the expectation was, and that's bad. So at the end of that contract, nobody wants to renew with you. Everybody's got one shot. Like Eminem said, everybody's got one shot.
Dude,
and if
who
you're
knew
if you're
Rob
not
Drew
for
was
real,
funny?
if you're not for real, you've lost your credibility. So I think you've got to be honest with yourself. You should be honest with your sponsors, because if you're not, that's not building a long-term relationship. And
Okay.
what's the point of wasting the time?
So let's take a step back. And I love what Greg said here. Greg, super positive dude. Let's talk about shredding and enjoying life. Greg, I think that's part of the impetus for this conversation, is just to put it out there bluntly, to hopefully provide some insight to people and maybe get them to take a step back and realize life isn't about social media. Life is about enjoyment and shredding. But don't go make everything about social media to create this facade that you want people to think you are, or do that because of what other people have on their social media. There's so much talk about it. Oh, social media is bad because everybody just puts out this unattainable thing. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it's up to you as a viewer to look at that and put a certain amount of stock in it, and that's something that it's a bummer. And again, I'm a 44-year-old dude, basically, who's okay with who he is in life and what I've been and what I haven't been and what I'll never be. I'm fine with all that. And I wish more people would be. And that's, I think, what it comes back to for me. Like, it's live your life. Don't be so affected negatively by social media. If it affects you positively, dude, I'm down for that. Like, find ways to take motivation from it and find ways to be maybe inspired by it. But then also, you got to see through some of it. Like, we know, dude, we've been there. We've had sponsorships, and we were just talking about it before we went live. Like, you had a great point. Like, somebody said, what's your dream sponsorship? What's one aspect of that?
For me?
Well, yeah, you said it earlier.
Well, that's the thing that's difficult. What is my dream sponsorship? I would.
What
imagine
does it start with? What does it start with?
It would need to have enough money that I wouldn't have to worry about my finances.
How about an actual contract?
Yeah, it does have to have a contract. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. What I would say is if you're that's kind of the first plateau. If you've ever signed a contract with a company, that's step one. That's probably a more realistic sponsorship deal than just, hey kid, here's some, whatever. Here's a sticker, we're sponsoring you. And I've been there too. When I was racing motocross, that's how it starts. Here's our premix, put the decals on your bike. And
yeah, but here's the difference. And I thought about that exact thing. There was no Instagram then. There was no YouTube then.
Yeah.
And people, they only got to see things on stage, and that stage was a very small one. And now people get to see everything, and you have way more opportunity to curate something that's either real or not.
And that's the great. So for all the negative about social media, one of the great things about it is if you are a terrible rider, but you enjoy riding the bike and your enthusiasm comes through and you put in the work to share with an audience and you build that audience, you're a person of influence and you can leverage that influence for products and even money. And so that's great that opportunity is out there for people who aren't born with the gifts that Richie Root has to ride the bike. I certainly know I'm not. I mean, I've been able to achieve more, I think, in mountain biking because of my meager following on Instagram. I mean, it hasn't moved in 5 years, but I think the people who follow me legitimately are interested in me and what's going on, and I appreciate them, and I think it has some value. Now, obviously, you have like we talked about, you have a bigger following than me, you have a bigger platform than me, so to a sponsor, you are a more valuable asset than me, and that's why you get opportunities that I don't get. And I believe I could get those opportunities if I applied myself like you're trying to get me to, but it has to feel like it's worth it to me.
Yeah.
And if I have 3 extra hours of daylight, I'd rather go ride my bike and not even take a camera with me. Just go ride my bike. I mean, today I went and rode today, and I didn't even turn on Strava or take a Garmin with me. I just rode.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. I did a ride. I came back, refilled my bottle, and went out and did another ride.
Look at you,
awesome.
dude.
It was awesome.
Overachieving.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that comes back a little bit to what Greg said, is shredding and enjoying life. And
well, you didn't ask me what bike I was riding. I thought for sure you would ask me. What bike would inspire me to ride twice?
What bike would inspire you to ride twice, Rob?
I was riding the S4 Stump Jumper Evo, since you asked.
Oh, which is not your bike, a bike you borrowed
That's
from
correct.
somebody.
It's a loaner. My good friend Jake allowed me to take his girl out for a little dance, and so I'm very thankful.
You getting along with her?
S4 is it for me, buddy.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's not get off topic. We're going to talk about sizing. Another point. You brought up a term that I think is a very important term, because there was a couple great questions that I think come back to this. And the word you said is value. And we can talk a lot about value and how much value somebody provides, how much potential value there is, how much realized value there is. What do you think?
Yeah, perception versus reality plays right into that.
And this is, when I talk about that, I had a conversation with somebody, and they were from a manufacturer, and they were a very important person at that manufacturer. And that's what they talked about was value and perceived and actual value. And I kind of spurred the conversation along by being pretty straightforward to say, what has more value? Somebody in a influencer creator space, or a high level athlete that's consistently on podiums? And the person said, well, I wish it was that simple. It's not.
And if you were asking Chris Kokalis that question, he'd say a high level successful athlete. I think there's not a right or wrong answer to that question. It has to do with what you see value in. If your company is built around top level athletes, and you structure it to leverage their exposure, you're going to get benefit from that. That was one of the problems I ran into, is if I'm representing your company and the people I can reach are not of particular value to you, you don't see value in me. And so it's not right or wrong. It's as simple as you shake hands and you go find somebody who sees value in the value that you represent. That's all. And if you don't take it personally, then you never know when your paths are going to cross again later on. Don't burn a bridge.
Yeah.
Thank whoever you're dealing with for the opportunity they gave you, and go look for a better opportunity. And that's the best thing that I can say. But I think it's important, as a person who has supported people in the past and had people better deal me. When you have something, it's easier to get something better. But don't forget the opportunities that were given to you early on. And if you've made a commitment, follow through on that commitment, because it doesn't take long to get a bad stench on you that precedes your arrival, and you can't wash it off.
I think that's a very insightful thing to say. And I think you have insight because you've lived some of it. I think we both have. And I personally, I'm happy with the sponsor journey I've had, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I feel like I've navigated it fairly well. There've been ups and downs, and I always thought, what value can I create? And so it was go do, then go to that company with what I've done to say, here it is. What is the value? And I think that's a very important piece. And I think for me, coming at this game later in life, I quickly realized me standing on a podium is not going to do anything. There's other ways to provide value. So let's drill down on that, Rob. How do you personally provide value?
Well, first of all, I just want to say one of the ironic things that I became aware of, mostly in motocross, I haven't seen it as much now, but I'm sure it's prevalent, is I got a lot of help racing motocross. Likely more, people could argue I got more than I deserved, but one of the ways I got it was I wasn't ashamed to say I needed help. Where guys were always over exaggerating the level of support they got. And what potential sponsors hear is, oh, you don't need any help because you've got all this help. I think of a particular guy that you and I know who put out there that he rode for Red Bull. I mean, that was a bold and untrue thing to do. But what he didn't realize it did was it made him ineligible for help he could have gotten.
Yeah.
And that's a foolish move. And I think it's more prevalent with young people, but that's the first mistake, is to, in the quest to seem like you're a successful guy, you misrepresent yourself, and then you eliminate the opportunity to get the support that you really need.
Let me put you on the spot. Do you ever misrepresent your standing in the community at all?
That goes right to the perception versus reality. I don't intend to ever do that, but it doesn't mean that people don't have the perception that maybe I think I'm a bigger deal than I am. I can't say. That's a question you would have to ask the people in my community.
Well, I think, give me your opinion.
Well, I think that I have a platform, especially here in my local trail system, and I'm trying to think how I want to word this. I don't take it lightly. If I'm on the trail, a lot of people don't like to ride with me because if I'm on the trail and I run into somebody who has a question or wants to talk, I stop.
Yeah.
They want to talk about a bike they saw me riding, I stop.
Yeah.
Because it's the least I can do. But there are people who I would like to spend more time riding with who aren't interested in taking that time out in their ride. They want to ride, and I appreciate it. It's the same thing I talked to you about. I miss the times when we can just go ride, and it's the same thing when I come to Bentonville. We can't go a block, and you got to stop and chat, and I understand why that is. It's because you kind of owe it to people. You've put yourself out there, and if they engage, you have to engage. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah. And that piece,
but if your question was leading somewhere, please fill me in, because
not at all. It's not leading. It's a topic of, do you think there are people that put things out there that aren't true, or put things out there in a manner to lead people think, or to make people.
Absolutely. Yeah. There are absolutely disingenuous people who with malicious intent say things that aren't true. That's the case. I like to believe that I'm not one of those people, and I would feel bad if somebody thinks I'm one of those people, but
I don't think you are.
And I've always tried to be who I am and do what I do. I know what I'm capable of. I would never want somebody to count on me in a circumstance where I can't deliver. So I don't want to misinterpret or misrepresent my capabilities.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. And it's hard sometimes. I have no problem saying, throughout the course of my social media career, I have probably posted things that there were words or phrases or elements of that post that led people to believe something that maybe wasn't completely true. But I have not made a history of that. Like, if somebody put me on the spot and asked me, I'd say, no, like, what you see is what you get. It's not like somebody could show me a picture or a story and say, hey, I don't think this is true, you need to prove it. I'd be okay. I'd be okay with that. And I think that's part of this bigger story of people trying to create something that isn't there in hopes that it will be there. The old fake it till you make it scenario. And that's a tough one, dude, because what if you make it? Like, what if somebody's doing that? Do you begrudge them? But then if they make it, was it a bad thing?
That's a hard question to answer.
I know, but that's the hard question. Like, I've been thinking about this for a day because you and I talk about it so much. Like, I saw an Instagram post by somebody today, and he's a really cool dude. And he had a follow cam video, and the dude following him had a full face Red Bull helmet on. And I'm like, whoa, dude, like I didn't know there was anybody in Texas that was a Red Bull rider. And I looked up this guy's Instagram, and he's got like 480 followers. And I'm thinking, that doesn't correlate. Like, Red Bull athletes usually have a lot of Instagram followers. And it was very interesting.
Well,
because
they can't stop me from painting a helmet up to look like a Red Bull helmet if I want to do it, but I would never.
Would you do that?
I would never do that. I would never do that.
And that right there
says douchebag in all capital letters.
Like, prime example, dude. Like,
I would never do that.
And I looked at it.
That's the thing is, so we've had conversations about things like, if I look across the room and I see somebody smoking, I speculate that person is inconsiderate, even if I've never met them. If I see somebody with a Red Bull or a Monster helmet, and all evidence points to the fact that they are not sponsored by either of those companies, I would think that this is a person who makes bad choices. And that's probably not the only bad choice that they've made. That may be wrong of me, but as a 50-year-old man, these are the pieces I've put together in my life.
No, I think that it's an important thing. And you talked about your responsibility. I think part of the responsibility, especially for people like us, and I think it comes back to anybody who is in a position of influence, is to try to create a more clear picture of who you are and what you're doing and how you're doing it. I think all of these things are important. Like, I follow a lot of people, especially younger people, and they're trying to create these personas around different things. And I genuinely feel bad because I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen, people get caught up in those personas. You're trying to create this persona. Like, I'm going to go be somebody in bike racing, and you build this up, and for some reason it doesn't happen. That's a bummer. Like, that's troubling. And I think it reaches the highest levels. Like, this isn't just low level people. Like, I think recently it's endemic with high level or mid-level riders who have bad performances. And there's this novel on Instagram about what happened. And it just, I get a really sour taste in my mouth. It's like, you know what? You had an off day. Don't talk about all the problems and all these issues and all these excuses. I had a bad day. Sorry. Get over it and move on.
Yeah,
and
but
I just,
there's a saying as old as time in racing, that is, you're only as good as your last performance. Yesterday's home runs don't count today's ball games.
And the performance I'm looking at is what they just put on social media. That's a new performance. That's a new element in the equation. It's not just what you do on the bike. And dude, you understand that as good as anybody. If you're a manufacturer, would you rather have somebody who's consistently top 10, but just a person that is loved by everybody and respected? Or would you rather have that top 3 all the time and the person's an asshole? And they make huge excuses.
Personally, I'm not interested in the best guy who's a jerk. I'm not interested in that. But again, I'm not the guy making that decision. If I were, then it would be the way I think it should be. But my opinion isn't right. It's my opinion.
Okay, so
I think you can get more mileage out of a good guy who's not the best guy. I think, especially when he's very honest about the fact that, yeah, man, I'm not the best guy, but you know what? Winning wouldn't be anything if it weren't for all the other guys trying.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of ASRANs, and there have to be in order for the winner to be special.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this day and age, wins are getting less and less impactful. And Tim brings up a great point, and this was something that our man Rubber Chicken talked about. People who ride to get free gear, or not even free, dude, just a meager discount versus people that are actually 100% behind the product.
Yeah. Well, a perfect example is if you watch any motorsports where somebody's sponsored by Red Bull or Monster and they get on the podium and they're drinking one, grab the can from them and see what's in it. It's likely water. They're not drinking that stuff.
You don't know.
They're happy to cash the checks. They're not drinking that stuff. And that's a perfect example. I mean, if Red Bull came to me and wanted to pay me, would I not do it? I think I'd be obliged to take their money.
Yeah.
I don't see how they would see value in me, though. That's the thing. That's an unrealistic partnership.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. But he brings up Cushcore as a perfect example. And you know, I don't want to bore anybody repeating a story, but I got Cushcore because I got a front flat in an enduro race, and I lost a race I would have won if not for that front flat. And so I went and I bought some. I went to a bike shop I don't normally go to because they had them in stock, and I paid retail and I put them on my bike. And lo and behold, they were amazing. And so then I went all around town and bought 5 more sets. I spent like $1,000 on Cushcore so that all my bikes would have it, because it was such a stark difference in handling with and without. I couldn't have bikes that didn't have it. And after that, we were able to form a partnership. But I didn't approach Cushcore to ask them for anything. I approached Cushcore at the Sedona Bike Festival to tell them how amazing I thought their product was. And from there, they were interested. When they heard what I had to say, they were interested in partnering with us.
Yeah,
but
that organic relationship rarely happens like that. So
yeah, but
let's take a
Scratch is another one. You know, you recognize that product, and I was never one to worry. I drank water.
Yeah,
but when I had literally near fatal cramping scenarios, it became a little more important for me to
look at that. Kind of a solid segue, Miguel Navarro. Thank you for the $5.
Miguel. Thanks, brother.
And let's talk about this real quick, because you brought up Scratch. What do you eat, drink, prepare before a proper ride with a good amount of climbing? I don't get crazy, and I eat what I would normally eat, maybe a little bit more the night before. I don't know about the carb load thing. I don't tend to do that much anymore, just because I'm not putting a ton of output, high glycogen. Sometimes I'll have some oatmeal in the morning, some gluten-free sprouted oats, something like that. It's funny, depending on what type of ride I'm doing, I'll either just have coffee with some heavy cream and go fasted, or if I'm feeling it, dude, I'll have like some oatmeal and some sausage or some bacon. It's funny. I think there are benefits to both, and it's kind of a whatever you want. But I would say don't ever change anything. Don't go for a drastic change. And the night before,
you have to poop in your pants.
Yeah, you don't want to poop your pants. That's a bad thing. I think the night before, don't go crazy. Don't eat anything spicy, and just be hydrated. Like I'll drink Scratch on long rides, but I'll drink Element when I'm off the bike. So I would say the night before, have something like that. So definitely good. But then hang on, look at this. Casey coming in.
Ooh, yeah.
$9.99.
$9.99. Yeah.
He follows and supports us because of how genuine we are. He won't ride without Cushcore. I dig that. Casey, dude.
Casey, take your clipless pedals and your clip-in shoes and go down to the park. I just had this conversation. Let me see if I can show you this.
Casey, dude, I appreciate that sentiment, because we are really trying to be genuine, and I don't want to say it's a hard thing to do. I think it's pretty easy to be genuine, but not everybody appreciates it, unfortunately. And sometimes that's a tough thing to deal with. Makes it a little bit more tough. Posers are lame. This Andy pedal guy. What does that say?
I don't know if you can see this.
Connor?
This is his picture of his clip-in shoes.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, head to a local park and practice your escape. It's time very well spent. And he said, already on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, look at Andy here. Posers are lame and eventually get exposed. If they happen to make it, I'd have to step back and see what their contribution is to the niche. If it's positive, beneficial, then cut them some slack. I think so, because if it's empirically agreed upon as positive and beneficial, I do
Andy,
think
if you
cut
ever
him some
make it,
slack.
I'll probably cut you some slack.
I don't know if that's. Are you trying to? What are you trying to say there?
I'm jiving him. I'm
But
saying he's a
see,
poser and he hasn't made it yet. No, I'm just kidding.
but Andy, you bring up a great point, and again, this is a scenario where
Actually, he
certain people.
misspelled posers too.
It's fine. I wasn't going to say that. Whatever. What makes a poser? And that's the thing that is sometimes challenging. And
Well, that there again, I think to some degree, it's perception versus reality.
Yeah, but again, certain people's reality is different, man, and that's the thing that makes it difficult. And again, I'm kind of jumping all over with what I'm trying to say and what my point is. And at the end of the day, maybe I don't really know. I guess it comes back to, oh, I hate to say it like this, but I know my place, and I think I've taken a lot of that from you. I know my place, man. And I think that's a good thing. I think if more people knew their place, they could exist better in that place
Well, I
instead
think
of
the idea
working
is
so hard.
make the most. Yeah, make the most and make the best out of your place instead of
Andy,
aspiring to be in another place.
so
That's kind of a grass is greener paradox.
whoa, wait a minute. Dude, am I seeing this?
1999. Are you
What?
kidding me?
Oh, for 1999.
Boom. Now what would you
Mark.
pay? But wait, there's more.
Mark, wow, thanks, dude. Like that's
Good
big,
man, Mark.
I've
You
never
rock,
seen a
buddy.
1999 thing.
That's a record right there.
Yeah.
I hear 1999. Anybody got $25.99? Looking for $30. Hey.
We're not even.
Go eat once.
Even
Go eat
going
twice.
there. It's funny because we could bounce around all over the place. But Andy, tell me if that makes sense, dude. And Andy's a good one because Andy and I have had these conversations quite a bit because there's a decent amount of people. I guess there's a decent amount of people everywhere that fit into that realm, but there's a lot of them around here, and I'm going to come out and kind of give some context. And again, this might rub somebody the wrong way, but enduro in the middle of the country is not enduro everywhere else. I think we can all agree on that. And I was the Southern Enduro Tour champion in 2016. Dude, there was nothing gnarly about that. There was no high-level riders there, but I was the highest level of those riders, and I've hung my hat on that a bit. But in the grand scheme of things, what does it mean? It doesn't mean much. Like if you're the best rider in the middle part of the country, how good are you other places? And I think that's the key is if you own that and that's what you're doing, I appreciate that.
If you're honest with yourself, it's a great stepping stone. You can parlay that, but when you take it to the next level, then you've got to file into the place where you fit and work from there. But that's one thing that's always troubled me these days, which is different from when I was young. When I started riding motocross, of course I wasn't very good at it, and when I went out and I got smoked and just crushed, that inspired me to work hard to be better because I didn't like how that felt. But I didn't cry about it. I went and put in the work and I got better. And then pretty soon I was the guy who was winning. And that is a very important ingredient that when I was young, I assumed everybody had, but they don't. You're not born with it. It's not natural. And I think some parents who maybe didn't have it don't understand how to nurture it in their children so that they are willing to be motivated by that. Everybody doesn't win, and everybody shouldn't get a trophy because that sullies the value of the trophy. And I'm sure there are people out there who are going to disagree with me, but that's just my life's experience.
Well, that's another almost Pandora's box. Like Austin says, it's more fun in the middle of the country. Enduro is supposed to be fun. And again, my opinion, let me finish this. By nature, it's supposed to be fun. If you're racing enduro and not having fun, unless your contract has a lot of zeros on it, you need to find a way to have fun. And what makes it so challenging is people's desire to win and stand on a podium. And a lot of them don't ride the class they should ride, but like, it's just
Well,
so
let me
tough.
just interject something and tell you my opinion of it.
Okay.
I can make a fun enduro in a Home Depot store. So that can happen anywhere in the country. It
Well,
doesn't
he
have
talks
to
about the
be.
promoters making it more fun, and that's great. But
Well,
I just,
absolutely, that's my point. Is I think that enduro for me is more thrilling in the mountains, and so I think for me to have the best time, there need to be some mountains there.
yeah,
But it doesn't mean you can't have an enduro in a place that doesn't have it.
yeah,
You have to be more creative, and it's going to be a different subset of riders maybe who come out to compete. If it's pedaling stages, like a multi-stage cross country race,
yeah,
you could call that an enduro and it would qualify. It's going to be a different group of people who are probably going to be doing well at it,
yeah,
and I don't think that's bad. You work with what you have. Wherever you are, maybe you can't afford a ticket to Europe. Maybe you don't have a passport, so you
yeah.
make the most of what you have, and I don't see any problem with that. I mean, get some plywood and some 2x4s and whip up some jumps. Make an enduro around the block.
Yeah, Andy brings up a great point here. The purists will never not have issues with online personas. Well, and maybe that's it right there. How much of a persona is it? And this is my example right here, Todd or Andy. I was able to attend a TRS clinic in San Diego, and the guys seem just like they are in their videos. And that's kind of a key point with all of this.
Me at least. I don't know about Rich, but
anyways,
I'm me,
well,
dude.
and I think that's an important thing. We're not trying to be personas, and some people are, and that's fine for them. I don't begrudge anybody
and
for doing that. I may not be into it.
If that gets you, I saw. I'm trying to remember where I saw it, maybe I read it, but something that said, "Figure out what you want, and then figure out how to get it."
Yeah.
And if what you want is money, and how you want to get it is YouTube, then look at the people who make the most money on YouTube and look at what they do and try to do what they do better than they do it, and you'll probably make the money they make and maybe more. Well, I've looked at that, and I don't aspire to that.
Oh, I know. And I don't aspire to that. That's why I do the things I want. But right here, Scott says, what has more value to a brand? A rider that gets a lot of podium presence or a social media guy with a bunch of followers? I think at this point, I'm going to go with the latter.
I think we go back to what I said. That's
what brand
in the eye of the
what
beholder.
do they want?
Yeah,
exactly.
That's in the eye of the beholder.
Exactly. Like, I'll give you a perfect example of a brand that doesn't care about podiums. In my opinion, they want people to look and act like the biggest jackasses on the planet. They make sunglasses. And that's another one of those things where it circles back to people getting what they can get just because they can get it and using it, or actually being behind it. Prime example, dude. If Pit Viper approached me and said, dude, we'll give you $500,000 to sponsor the ride series, I'd tell them, no, thank you. And I'd have no problem doing it. And if they said, wow, dude, that's pretty foolish of you, it's a lot of money, why would you do that? And I'd say, because of the sticker you have on the back of your van. That's the first reason. There's many, but that's the first reason.
What's that sticker say?
Warning, driver may be jerking off. Literally, dude, on the back of their van.
It's pretty strong.
No, it's not strong. That's just, I don't even know what the word is. But dude, and all these young kids that are out there wearing their Pit Vipers, loving it. And again, dude, call me an old man who's lost touch with reality. But like you said, if I see somebody wearing Pit Vipers, that says enough for me. And am I wrong? Doesn't matter. It's not about wrong or right. It's my opinion. Yeah. And that, I think, is a lot of this. Like, I saw somebody, oh man, yesterday, like, the New Year's posts are great, dude. Everybody's like, oh, all this time with this company and it's time to move on. But man, I'm so excited about the next chapter. And, everybody's waiting and waiting. And then there's so many posts. Like, somebody said, I want to thank all my sponsors and my family. And I looked at that and I went, ooh, if I was your family, I'd come to you and say, thank your sponsors before your family, huh? Interesting. Okay. And it's things like that, like,
Well, the guy's family's probably not paying his bills.
his sponsors aren't paying his bills either. And that's kind of the point. And even then, it's like, still, if my sponsors are paying my bills, I don't know. I think I'd still probably want to thank the family that was right there supporting me. So
What if
I
they
don't know.
didn't support you?
We're going to bring some, is it levity here with this? Because Hari's asked a question that needs to be answered. Rob, I'm going to let you answer this one, buddy.
Primetime Rich versus primetime Rob. Who's faster? Like in me and my prime, you're saying?
Ooh.
Is that the question?
I don't know. But even if it is.
No, what's been shocking for me is with the new bikes I have, I'm getting PRs on trails here at home, which indicates I'm going faster on those trails that I've ever gone in my life, which is mind-numbing to me. It's awesome. But I would absolutely, and this is not the first time I've said it, Rich is a faster rider than me. If it's down to a race, Rich will win. I think I have a better technical skill set, and I think I am more aware of the nuance of technical riding. So I think I have an edge on him there, but that could be just a matter of 7 years of additional living and wisdom.
Well, I think I'm closing the gap. I'm closing the gap. You're still ahead.
If you look at Rich physically, he is a more powerful athlete.
He is.
I don't have those gifts. I don't have those tools, and so I have to find a way to make the most of what I have to work with, and I think I do a very good job for a almost 51-year-old man. I'm comfortable with that. I'm not the fastest guy. It's okay.
Yeah. Let's talk about this one real quick because Jason brings up a good point. Not every single brand can afford those people, and that's just part of how it happens. And I think it's different when that is the case. And I don't know that that's what we're speaking of. I think more what we're talking about is those people who they don't get paid. Like very few people get paid. And I think this is how it happens. A lot of people get a discount. And I think usually that discount, the brand's still making money on those people. So in essence, those people are paying to advertise for that company, which, you know, for some people, I think that's great because they're getting a deal on things. But again, some of these people, you see them, they have stickers plastered. They're out there just, yeah. Like the marketing team of that company loves those people because they're paying to be that much of a cheerleader.
Yeah, but on the flip side, sometimes that gets you in a position to be considered where somebody else might not be. So
I agree, dude. I agree. And that's part of what you need to think about. Then there's the people that actually get product for free, which I don't think is that many. And what are you doing in that scenario? Meaning,
well, I can give you a good example of that. Was my first year racing, I was on a Niner that I bought. When I had decided I really loved riding bikes and I was going to make that big investment in a bike, I bought this limited edition blue Rip 9 RDO, carbon fiber, whiz bang special, all the goodies. And in a very brief period of time, I broke that bike. I took it back to the shop. They got me a warranty frame. I was back out on the trail, and in another very short period of time, I broke that bike. At that point, my shop I bought it from had gone out of business, so I had to interface with the factory directly. And they sent me another frame, which I quickly broke. And then they told me, once I had started to develop a relationship, they recommended I get on a different bike. They sent it out. I started riding it. It was good. I went and raced. I won that championship, but I was wearing Niner stuff, and they weren't doing anything for me. Yeah. But I believed in the product, and I was happy to expose it. I was having a great time. The bike was good. And after that, they gave me another frame. And so then suddenly I started to get a little bit of help, which was cool. So, I think that's a great way to start it. If you have a company who makes a product that you like, I hear people take the attitude all the time of, well, I'm not advertising for them. They didn't give me anything. Well, they're probably not going to give you anything either. So much of this is, you navigate it how you want. I can tell you what I've done and what my results were, and then you can dismiss it. That's okay. But I think if you're there and you have an opportunity to give benefit to a company that doesn't cost you anything, why would you not do that? That would be a pretty silly move. And if I'm the company, I see that. I see that. And that's the other thing, is you never know when somebody's looking. You never know when the guy who's going to decide on your fate is standing right there and you don't know it. And that's the story of my life. I've always tried to deal fairly with everybody I encounter. And some of those people came around in positions to do great things for me or do nothing for me. And they chose to help me out when they didn't have to. And so I'm thankful for that. And it's happened to me enough times that I don't overlook it.
So what advice would you give people then of all ages, of all skill levels, that are looking for sponsorship? And to kind of clarify a little bit, this kind of comes to, is it take what you can get and be a zealot for that company? Or do you maybe want to say, you know what, I appreciate this offer, but I'm not a fan of that product. I'd rather stay more true to myself.
So my feeling on this is, what you have to ask yourself first is, what can you do for said company? And if you can't do anything, I wouldn't even approach them, because you have nothing to offer them. Companies can't give things away for nothing with nothing in return. They would go out of business. And so if you have, like, for instance, what I would say, if I'm going to go to XYZ company and try to get something from them, I would go to them and I would say, I have been watching the growth of your company. I think your product is fantastic and I'd love to ride it, or I'd love to run it. Unfortunately, I don't have the kind of budget it would take to just buy it. If I had that money, I might. Is there here's who I am, and here's the influence that I carry, and here's what I'm willing to do for you. And it needs to be something. It needs to be something that has potential value to them. And that's another place where social media is so valuable. If you told somebody, look, I'm going to ride this bike 3 days a week in my local trails. It's a big trail system. Here's some information about it. And do the legwork, do the homework.
Yeah.
Create a presentation, because most people are too lazy to do that. And if you do that, that instantly separates you from everybody else who can't be bothered, who's just like, hey, what are you going to give me? Yeah. I'm Joe Cool. What are you going to give me? Yep. The question is, what are you going to give them? And that's the basis of a good relationship. If you can bring value, and it's not, it doesn't have to be money. If it's a successful company, they have the money. They don't need your money. They have the money. But what can you give them that they can't buy? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Tim sums it up in one word: integrity.
Absolutely.
You got to believe in the brand.
I'm not a good salesperson, in the sense that if you ask me to sell something I don't believe in, I can't do it.
Well, and I think that's why you've been good about not putting yourself in that situation. I don't feel you have. And I've certainly tried not to. But again, that's one of those scenarios. Do you fault somebody if they do? Like, I don't know. We just open up a realm of, like, dude, if you're a creator or a young writer, a young aspiring writer, and a company comes to you that's not a very, I guess, well-respected or positioned company, but they're going to give you some support. I mean, do you do it? Because that support better than no support? And maybe the equipment isn't great. Or if you're a creator, you have a brand that's going to sponsor your channel. There's something to that, like that does something for you. What do you do? I mean, you can't come out and say, I did this deal because I need a sponsor, because I need some funds to make some videos. I'm not a big fan of this product. I think we can all agree it pretty much sucks, but whatever. I'm just going to roll with it.
Well, my problem with that is, here's a perfect example. And what comes to mind, and I feel bad, I don't want to slander any companies. What comes to mind for me is the other tire insert company that sent me some product. I mean, they reached out to me. They were great. I was posting some things about Cushcore and how much I liked it. At the time, I didn't have any kind of an arrangement with Cushcore. I just believed in their product and thought it was good. And when I come across a product that I like, that I think is good, I want people who I can reach to know, hey, I tried this thing out. I think it's fantastic. I recommend you get it because it has a lot of benefits. Not because there's something in it for me, but because I want everybody's experience to be as good as mine is. And if I think I found something that can make their experience better, I want to share that. And so this company sent some product to me and I tried it and it was terrible. It was just terrible. And I would never pawn that stuff off on people for a payout for me, because they're going to have bad outcomes. You know, people could get hurt. And then it's because I recommended something that's really no good that they are. That's not, I can't deal with that. I can't deal with that.
Yeah. Yep. You know what's funny, and this is a great one here. It depends on how much flipping they do over time. Endorsement looks fake. Look at subs in the fitness industry. I get it. And where's the balance of getting paid, making a living, and doing all those other things? And I think that's part of what I've been saying about not necessarily being a YouTuber. And dude, we get offers all the time to make videos for different companies, and we say no. You know why Element's sponsoring a bunch of videos? Because I drink the stuff. I drank it before they even offered us support in making videos. Dude, prime example, my knee pads. We buy our knee pads from 7. I've bought knee pads from 7 for years because I like them. We got free knee pads for a while. I didn't like them much. I really like the 7 knee pads way better. That's why we're back to wearing those.
Yeah, and I didn't like the ones that you were wearing. They were too minimalist for me. Yeah. You gave me some and I gave them back. I bought a pair of knee pads in Italy from a company called Bluegrass, and they were fantastic and they were inexpensive. And I wore them until they basically were worn out. And then I reached out. You know, I tried some different things. Like you said, we got some knee pads that we used for a while. I didn't really feel they had adequate protection for me. And I got some Troy Lees for Jen, and they fit awesome. So I got a set for myself. Just bought them at the bike store, and they were great. They were super comfy. They stayed up where they should. But then when we were at Sedona this year, Jack from 7 came and rode with us on the group ride, and then I was saying that I would love to ride their pads, but the ones you like are just not enough protection. And he explained, "Oh no, we got some other ones. Come by." And so I went by and he hooked me up with, you know, I bought, but yeah, he showed me the ones he was talking about, and they're amazing. Yeah. So I mean, I'm happy to pay for the things that serve me well and that I like. And I mean, I don't know. A fair exchange is no robbery. Nobody has to give me anything. I'll pay for it if I like it. And I'm thankful that I'm in a position that I can.
Well, and I think that might be a good way to segue out of this is you're in a position where you can. I think I'm in a position where I can do some of the things that I'm doing. Not everybody is in that position. And that's just the hard truth. Yeah. And sometimes it's hard. Like if you're in the riding space and there's a lot of people that ride better than you and you don't ride at the level that you aspire to ride at, I can see that being tough. And you know,
yeah, but the reality is when you're using social media as a tool to leverage your presence, the percentage of people who don't ride great is much bigger. And you can build a community with those people and you can grow together. And that's the ticket. I mean, Patrick White to me is such a great example. When I first met the guy, he wasn't a great rider, and he was overweight, and he fell in love with the bike, and he threw himself into it like nobody I've ever seen, and he's become amazing. He's super fit. I cannot even keep up with him on climbs, and he is such a pillar in the mountain bike community here locally, because he gives of himself, asking nothing in return.
He's an outlier.
I agree, but he is an outlier. But he is a model.
He's a benchmark.
He's a benchmark. He's a model to look at as an inspiration for how things could be and should be. and anybody out there can be that guy. It just takes some work, and it's not cash up front.
Yeah. Yep. How about this?
If you're doing it for you, then best of luck to you. But if you're doing it because you can and because you think people will benefit from it, then that's the key, man. That comes across. You don't have to explain. It comes across.
I know. And I think there can be a balance of that. You know, if you're aspiring to race, you got to do some of it for you. But while you're doing it, if you can try to find those moments to give back and be genuine, I think that's only going to help you. It's not going to hurt you. You know, I think there's, and I've seen people that they're in that position and they have to play a role. They have to play a persona to be the person that they think they should be or that people want them to be. And that's not. And that's a bummer.
The thing that troubles me as a guy who's raced in different disciplines for most of my life, there was something in me that needed to do that. You know, there was a void that got filled by doing that. I needed to compete, and I needed to compete in the types of sport. Well, you know, when I was young, I played baseball. It was not for me. Team sports were not for me. I don't like to depend on other people and be let down. And a team, you know, it's like a chain. It's only as strong as its weakest link. So if you're the strongest link in a chain, sorry, the weak link failed on you, and that's where you are. And motocross appealed to me because it was me. If I failed, I had nobody to blame. I had to own it. And if I succeeded, I didn't really have to share it. That was me. I'm the one who delivered. And that appealed to me. Yeah. And I was driven. It's funny. One of the things, and I think you and I have talked about this, but I remember when I was a beginner and it was a family event, you know, the family would go to the races. But when I was a beginner, when the pros would come up to race, everybody in the pits would come up to the fence to watch the races. And one day, and this was at Glen Helen, the pros came out and I looked at Dad was next to me and I said, one day that's going to be me. And he basically laughed at me. And that stuck with me. And I said to myself, I'll show him. And it wasn't that he didn't support me from where I was at the time to where I needed to go. That was a long road. And the odds were I wouldn't persevere. I wouldn't stick with it. You know, whatever the case may be. I'm sure he made his judgment based on his experience with me my entire life to that day. And the odds were in his favor.
Very heavily.
But it was enough to drive me to get to that place. And in spite of some detours, I mean, there were times along the way where it didn't look like it was going to happen, and it was great to be able to see his reaction when it did.
It's funny. I had a similar experience when I started racing mountain bikes, and I remember very quickly watching the pro races. And it's funny because it was local pros. You know, it didn't mean much, but I watched and I tried to engage some of them in conversation and got passed off, just got dismissed. And I remember thinking the same thing, basically.
Well, and that was another thing for me was when I remember I raced at Ascot and they did a split start with the beginners and the pros. And this guy who was terrible in the pro class, he must have fallen or something, but I was winning the beginner class and I caught up to him and he brake checked me in a corner. And I was not experienced enough to be looking ahead. And so I picked up my bike and I got going again, and he did it to me in the next corner and the next corner. He did it to me like 5 times. And he was just a complete asshole. And when that race ended, I thought to myself, I will never be like that to somebody up and coming. When I'm that guy, I'll never be like that when I'm up, when I get there. I'll help people along like me now.
Yep.
And I tried that. I tried to make that be kind of my North Star through my whole racing career. You know, because none of these sports exist without the people coming in.
Yep.
You know, the guys at the top fall off eventually, and you need new people coming in. And so if you want to be in a sport that is a successful sport that's growing and thriving, you need new people coming in all the time. And the people at the top who are too foolish and short-sighted to embrace that, they're just not my kind of people.
Yeah, it's another great one. Sponsorship is bottom up. It's not top down. Manufacturers are more interested in supporting someone already invested in their ecosystem of product. Of course, it makes perfect sense because then there's somewhat of a track record. And I think that's where ambassador programs and that's why they've become so popular, is they provide that opportunity for people. I think Fazari does a great job of that. And I think that's a very important thing. And I think, well, it's like you said earlier about this shift in paradigm. Things are very different now than they were even 4 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago. People talk about actual pro riders versus, oh man, Blodgett said it, lifestyle athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Lifestyle athletes. And that you have this paradigm shift where lifestyle athletes are starting to play a major role. Brent Atkinson's a prime example.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that dude doesn't race anymore, and I don't care if he does. It doesn't matter. I'd rather make videos than race because I just want to watch him ride.
I love to watch that dude ride his bike. And so I wish I could have a live feed that was like a drone that just followed him every time he got on his bike. I would pay a monthly fee for that. And there's several people like that, like Win Masters.
Yeah.
I would, if I could just have a fly on the wall camera, I'm sure when that guy goes into a restaurant to order a meal, it's probably hilarious. I wish I could have access.
You want him to have no privacy.
Yeah. I wish I could have access to that.
We gotta tackle this one, because I know Josh was, he was fairly interested in this one. I thought he had another one though. Hang on. I'm going to think about this one. Okay. Cause he asked, what makes you valuable to sponsors? Which I think is a great one. What would be a dream endorsement or scenario?
A dream endorsement for me.
That's tough.
That's a tough one.
I mean, I started thinking about it, and it's, since we're in this situation, we can like drill down a little bit deeper. Like my first thought was, oh man, have a large manufacturer that kind of supports everything. Well, then that automatically, I think, removes you from being able to reach other people that aren't connected with that manufacturer.
This segues me back to you and the conversation we had before this. and what I'll say is I started my company. For anybody who doesn't know, I have an auto body shop here in Chandler, Arizona. But how that company started wasn't because I was particularly entrepreneurial. I went to the Bob Bondurant School to apply to be a part-time driving instructor, but I had grown up in the auto body repair industry and done some side work for some people who worked at the school. And so they didn't want to hire me as an instructor, but they did offer me the opportunity to repair their cars when they damaged them if I could get a place close by. And that's how my company was born. And from that day, we never had a contract. My arrangement with that company was, if you can find somebody who'll do the same job or better for the same price or less, you should go have them do it instead. I worked for that company for 25 years, basically. Mm-hmm. And those were the terms for all that time. And I think that says a lot about something like you're talking about. But like the problem with a sponsorship, that's a contractual arrangement, even if it's just a year. If at some point you don't feel like it's in your best interest, you're stuck. You're stuck for that commitment. So what you have done is approach it as brand agnostic as possible, so that you can create opportunities with any particular company. And this goes back to what I said. What can you offer them? If you start with that, and then look at an opportunity that's available to you, and then find a company that it fits best with. You go to that company and say, hey, how about this? Let's say, like you do, like it's a video. Yeah. Hey, I have this opportunity to do a video. I think your product fits in it well. How about we do this one thing, and this is what it costs you, and this is what I'll deliver. And then you do it. And if it's a win-win thing, you're probably going to be in a position to do another thing with them, but you're not forced to do it. And then you can leverage that thing to another company and maybe get more money or whatever it is.
Well, yeah.
And you can build your value as you build your platform. And that's exactly what you've done brilliantly, in my opinion. that's the thing to do. The problem is it doesn't happen overnight. It's a long, hard road, and it takes a lot of time and effort and money. In a lot of cases, it takes money.
Oh, it does. It does. And it's a very arduous task to get to that point. And I don't know that people want to do the due diligence.
Well, I think about the beginning of your YouTube channel. If you get a guy like Brock with his skill set comes to you and says, "Hey, dude, you're cool. Let's do some videos."
Totally. Yeah.
That'd be great. Nobody's come to me to do that, or maybe I would be more invested in doing videos,
or maybe not, because dude, like you talk about the return took a while. And again, who knows, man? Like that's all part of it is, Josh, dude, I can kind of tell you, I don't know if I'd say it's a dream scenario, but I have a pretty solid setup right now. Like I'm pretty happy with where things are. And could they be bigger? Certainly they could be bigger, but how big are they?
I think they will be. They will be. They're
you know what?
They're
they
on
probably
a path
will
to get better and bigger.
But I'll dictate them on my terms. Like I talked to you about this, dude. Like, what is success? Am I a successful YouTuber? By some people's measurements, no. Like, what does my YouTube actually make? I don't know. I don't really care. But how much have I leveraged that to create revenue and opportunity elsewhere? I think I've done pretty well with that. And that's the piece.
If you consider it the advertising mechanism for your actual business, the difference between most YouTubers is they don't have an actual business. YouTube is the business.
Definitely.
So that's a different scenario.
Exactly. But that was by design. And I think that's an important thing is when YouTube is your thing, when YouTube is your job, it's your responsibility, you have to cultivate it. And you have to do things and make decisions in order for that to support you. And I think that's a pretty dangerous thing as I sit here right now, because that's not how my decisions are made, thankfully. And I want to stay in that situation. And we have had this discussion quite a bit. I can dictate what happens right now. And I'm getting better at it. Like the deals for this year are better. I'm able to dictate them. And I have a couple out there that are what I feel they should be. And I don't think that the people on the other end are going to bite, because I don't think they're going to want to write that check. And if they don't, that's fine. I'm okay with that, because I know where it's at and I know what I feel the value is, but I also know what I want to do. And a couple of these agreements, I constructed them based on what happened this year and some things that were challenging. And I don't want those challenges. And so I tried to do my best to remove that potential for those challenges. And I won't pretend like I know the answer, like some people could watch this and go, dude, you only have 50,000 subscribers. Like, that's not a big deal. This person has that many, and that person has that many. I don't care. Would I like 100,000? Yeah, dude, that'd be awesome. And it'd be awesome because that means we get to reach more people and hopefully positively impact more people. But I'm not counting that number day in and day out, because I need that to feel better about myself or to potentially create more revenue. It will create more revenue, but I don't want to be in a position where I need it to. And that I think is an important thing. And I think that's why having you part of it, I want you to do it on your terms. And I'm trying to make those terms as good as they possibly could be, because, we're talking about all these different things and our opinions about all these people and what they do. I'm sure there are out there that don't have high opinions of us for one reason or another, and that's fine. They can totally do that.
Not possible. No way.
Yeah. But what I come back to is, I feel.
Are you looking at some of these comments? I'm glancing at some of these comments and questions, and I feel bad that we're not answering them.
Well, we had topics here. Give me one that we can answer, or that you want to answer. Hang on. Let's, since we're kind of big on this, this is James, right?
That's James. Yeah. My man, James.
How big is too big?
How big?
For me, I'm going to assume I know the context of his question. I think
I have no idea what he's talking about.
I think too big is like the program, like everything. And so I'd say for us, it's YouTube and the ride series.
How big
I
is
think too big is when we start to lose touch with the product.
I think like
And
Elvis, Justin Timberlake, that's probably too big.
I don't know. I don't know right now what too big is, but
Jake Paul, too big.
I hope that if it gets there, that's too big, dude. Like you can record this and take it to the bank right now. There is a too big. The pendulum will start to swing back, and I hope I can stop it when it gets there. What other comments do you want to answer here? Like we're an hour 15 in. Let's answer some questions.
Holy moly.
Yeah, dude, that's long. What about this one? Burke's got a good one. He wants to enter some enduro races. He's never raced MTB ever. If you've never raced, you enter beginner or sport. That's what it looks like. If you get a top 5, move up the next race. That's my opinion.
So what I would say is if you feel like you're a pretty decent rider, you would probably want to enter the sport class. I say that because sometimes in the beginner class, there really are beginners there. And the thing about enduro is you typically start on 30-second splits. And if you come up behind somebody who's really not that skilled, they're gonna hold you up. And if you try to force the issue, you could take them out, you could take yourself out, you could both get taken out, and that's just a bad outcome.
Don't force the issue, dude. Don't force the issue. If you catch somebody,
well, the best thing is experience, and you know it's the ticket's not to choose a class you can win. It's to choose a class where you can get the best experience. And I think the best experience you can get is really to ride with people better than you, because you might get a chance to see some things. Like I honestly think that you'd be better in a class where somebody's going to pass you, and then you can try to pace off them. If the guy makes up 30 seconds on you, that guy's got you covered up. And so if you can watch that guy, even just for a few turns, and see what's he doing that you're not doing, there's benefit there. And so you need to decide what's your goal to go there. Because I guess that's the other thing, you know, when we talk about racing, and you and I have had this discussion, do we want to race next year? You know, I ask myself, do I need that? Do I need to put the work in? Do I have the time to invest? And what do I get out of it if I do? And I just don't know. After I'm thankful that I can ride my bike like I did today, get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I've gotten hurt really bad, and I'm thankful that I was able to recover and still be able to do what I do and enjoy it. And so I don't see a reason why I should risk that. Pushing, honestly, I feel like I can go as fast as I've ever been able to go. And so I think if I went and entered the BME, I don't think it's unrealistic for me to believe I can win a championship in the 50+ class.
I have no doubt.
I think I have that division covered, but I will be racing to win, and that's dangerous. And I don't know that it's in my best interest to push myself that hard, because the places where I might be losing are not. It's going to be mental glitches where I'll miss something and I'll get hurt, and I don't think that's a good idea.
Well, it's funny because for a while, a couple of years, and we finally had to talk about it, but Sarah said, you need to race the Arkansas Enduro Series because you need to go out and you need to speak of the smoking hot wife. Can you at least say hi? You can wave because I can't hear you. She used to say, I think you should race the Arkansas Enduro Series because you got to go out and prove, you know, how good you are and that you can ride at that level, that you can win.
But like we talked about,
and she kind of, it was in the context of creating more attendance at the ride series. And I told her, those people are not my customers. They're not the ride series customers, because most of them think they're already too good.
Yeah.
And furthermore, what am I going to do? What am I going to get if I win an Arkansas Enduro Series race? Nothing. It's not.
There's no benefit for you to get beat by the guy with no shirt on.
Exactly.
Not good.
And for
not
me,
good.
I would have to train to get to a level of fitness that doesn't make any sense. Like for me, where I'm at in my life, it doesn't make any sense. And that's what it comes back to is what I'm not going to forego enjoying my life and the food I eat and sleeping in certain days to go train at a level that'll allow me to win a championship. I don't need that right now. And that's part of it, dude, is, you know, if we could make a deal with a company to fund a race program and make a docu-series around it, hell yeah, I'd do it. And I'd have no problem getting in shape to have a decent performance. But my main goal would be to have fun.
Yeah.
I would not ride at a level that would frighten me or not allow me to have fun. And I'm fine with that. That's fine. What are some other things you want to, you said you had some good comments? Anything that jumped out at you? Questions?
Conversation. Well, that one about the division was one.
Okay. When are you getting sponsored?
I keep sending my application into those guys, and they just keep refusing me. But I'll pay. It's funny. We went and ate tacos today after the ride, and we went to Los Taquitos. They were closed.
Oh,
yeah. So we had to try a new spot.
What about this one?
Oh, it's so funny. When we walked into this Mexican restaurant, there was a group of young guys sitting there eating, and one guy who's facing me when I walk through the door goes, "Hey, man, cool beard." He was sincere. It was cool. I was like, "Hey, thanks, bro."
Cool beard. Yeah, old man.
It was funny.
So what do you think here, dude? What do you think on this? What feature still what feature
drops huge gaps tech scares each of you the most on the bike? For me, it's probably gaps. Yeah, I've just never, coming from moto, I was always down to fly. I love to jump. I really lamented the fact that my career kind of ended before freestyle took off, because I think I would have been very successful with that. But bicycles are not the same. Like flying through the air on something as light as a bicycle is still really uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
So I don't aspire to huck big gaps. Don't love that. Drops I typically don't have a lot of trouble with, but they're not something I do for fun. They're something I navigate as needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say gaps are the thing that frightens me the most. Like we were talking about, when I go to a bike park, if it's like a jump line, the first thing I do is slow the rebound down, because I know I'm going to be in the back seat riding like a fairy because I'm frightened. So
I'm not a huge fan of drops. And it's just one of those things where even in the best of scenarios, things can go wrong.
Yeah, like Snowmass.
Okay, so I'll give that story very quickly because we still have 89 people.
Yeah, you and D Tidwell have some shared experience on that game.
Oh my God. So at Snowmass, I don't even know what the downhill run is, but there's a pretty big drop.
It's just called the World Cup.
World Cup downhill. It's a pretty sheer, like wooden drop.
Yeah, it's the side of a road.
Yeah, it's a
side of a road.
It's a big drop.
So anyways, yeah.
I had heard about it. I hadn't seen it. And in pre-ride, I came ripping through the aspens. It was this off camber. You drop down, make a quick left, and then you bounce out, and there's this drop. And I looked at it, and it was pretty spicy, but I'm like, no big deal. I can hit it. And so I doubled back a little bit and came out, dropped down, popped out, and came off it. No big deal. Solid 1, 2, 3 technique. Well, then I'm coming through on my race run, and I'm on a heater, dude. I'm kind of in the zone. And as I come leading up to it through these aspens, this off-camber turn, it's an off-camber left-hander, and it bounces everybody down to the bottom where you scrub a little speed and pop out. Well, as I come in, I look a little bit to the left and realize, wait a minute, if I kind of skirt across the inside, I could straight line this. And I straight line it, dude, and I come blasting out of the trees thinking everybody, and I mean, dude, there's a ton of people there heckling. And I'm thinking everybody's going to be like, yeah, because I'm ripping and everybody's screaming, no. And whoosh, I flew off that thing, and I knew, lights out, dude. I could not hit eject quick enough. And yeah, that was a pretty gnarly one. I'm glad I was wearing like a full moto style chest protector, because I would have broken everything. What about this one? Our man, Nick. Stretch with Nick asks, Speed or Steez? Easy, Steez.
I go more for speed. I think efficiency.
I'm gonna say
My style is very understated. Always has been. So it doesn't convey.
I'm gonna say style, and there's a caveat to this. Like style, and this is a whole nother topic that we're gonna jump into. Style is style, and everybody has their own opinion on it, but I'm a purist, I guess, and I like people who innately have style. And for me, when somebody tries hard, there's nothing more off-putting to me than somebody who's trying too hard.
Yeah, moto was the same way.
Yeah.
People throwing their legs, like getting all crazy and bouncing the bike off the rev limiter. It's like, just shift the gear, bro. You can stop that.
And it's a fine line. Like, who was that Brit dude that rode for Cannondale that just was throwing his bike everywhere? Young dude, just come on, dude. He was part of the Cannondale deal with oh my God, Penn.
You're not talking about Marco Osborne,
Jasper Penton?
Oh, I don't know. Oh yeah,
yes, you do.
Oh yeah, that guy's not. Oh, so great to watch that guy.
Yes,
style for miles like I've never seen. That guy's insane.
And that guy's all over the
That's
place.
Another guy. If I could just watch that dude, riding his bike, he's working it, but it flows so well. Like he just puts it right where he wants it every time. It's awesome.
Yeah.
If anybody's not seen that guy,
Jasper
go look him up. Yeah, go look him up on Instagram. It's a treat to watch that guy ride the bike.
Yeah, it's funny. Style shows bike control, in my opinion. I agree, Josh.
Yeah.
I agree. You can't fake that. And that's what I appreciate. Like, I don't know why I thought about this earlier, but like, who's faster? And a lot of times that's talked about in certain circles, like, oh, is he faster? Is he faster? Who cares? If you're not racing, who cares? And sometimes even if you are racing, who cares? Like, you may win, but did you hate it the whole time? Were you super nervous, not even living in the moment, not remembering what happened? Dude, I'd rather have the most amount of fun and get a third than just be on pins and needles the whole time and win. I really would, dude, because like, I don't know if you remember years ago back at Flat Rock when we were riding, and I was like, dude, I don't know. It's just not right. And you said, dude, you're riding not to lose.
Yeah.
And it was like an epiphany, dude. And I just thought, man, I can't be like that anymore. That's not fun.
Yeah, just have fun.
Usually
when you're in that headspace and you have good rides, the results are there because you're typically you're riding the best you could ride.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I always go fastest in practice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, man. When we were at Winrock doing the team trail party race, which for anybody who's watching, if you're thinking about doing a race, I'd highly suggest a trail party event because they're just so fun and you get to do as many runs as you want in whatever order you want.
Yeah. And was that Burke who was talking about going to a BME?
Yeah.
Burke Bear. You should go do a team trail party race if you can get to one.
Dude.
Yeah. It's such a great, it gives you a great chance to ease into the sport at your own pace. And I think it's a great way to start.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny too, because we all did that one like Talladega or something. And dude, my fastest time by far of the three was the first one.
Yeah.
Because I didn't care. It was like, we're just going to get a run in, see what happens. And dude, as I started, it was working and I just kept going and laid it down. And then of course, the next two runs, I was trying to go faster and it didn't work. Yep. So you alluded to this earlier. What do you think of that S4?
I like it. I mean, the size for sure is
really
is better for me, I think.
Okay. How is it set up?
It's basically stock. It's a stock Pro.
Yeah, is it center, steep?
No. I put it in a steep position, high position.
Yep, that's what I did.
Steep, high. He had a 35 millimeter stem. I put the 50 back on it.
A 50 on a 4?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but I got my 20-inch number, saddle forward.
Okay. Yeah. What trail did you ride it on?
I went up National, down Mormon, down Javelina, around
Oh,
East
that's a
Loop,
good
came
run.
back, refilled my bottle, went out to the tank and back on Desert Classic.
Oh, pedaled. What'd you think of
Yeah.
that?
Well, that bike, the thing about that bike is it pedals like an XC bike. It pedals like a Trail 429 with the capability of something much bigger.
Okay, so Robert asked thoughts on the regular stump jumper with the flex days. And
I don't
again, you
love
got
it.
some great insight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
why?
love it. Just because the design of those is meant to be flimsy. That's the whole idea behind the name, and I don't like that trait. So it's not to
But
say it's bad. I don't like that trait. If you like that trait, or if you need, it's much lighter. If you need an XC bike and you plan to ride it for the purpose it was built, it's a fantastic bike. I was looking for something that could take a little more of a beating, and the Izzo seems to be that bike.
that's a very interesting thing because you are a big fan of the spur
Yeah,
with flex days.
Spurs fantastic, but it doesn't feel as flexible. Like I don't think that the spur seat stays are very broad. They're pretty burly. The stump jumper ones are very thin,
Okay.
and so
Well,
I think
that's an interesting realm because there might be a few more bikes coming down the road, shorter travel, but with, would we call that a horse link? Or is that not
the stump
happening?
jumper is not a no. The Evo would be a horse link,
Understood. So anything that has that link
like a
down low
four
in the
bar,
back would be
like a
okay.
4 bar.
A 4 bar,
Yeah,
because there's another one coming that has
yeah. There
a
needs to be
4
a
bar.
pivot in the rear.
Yep. Hey, Puerto Rico.
Nice.
Okay, so look at this joker, Mason to Cairo. Bike control also equals speed. So for the 87 people watching, Mason is a perfect example. Okay, this kid rolls up from Houston with the Area 51 film crew. And literally before he even rode his bike, I knew something was up because I watched him getting set up. I watched how he carried himself, how his bike was set up, which automatically gave me clues. So I figured, okay, I think we're in for something. And then he dropped into this one trail, and I immediately knew first, he's a good rider. He's a rider I could watch all day long because he has impeccable style, but some of that style was gleaned from riding motocross. And those are a couple things. When you have a specific background, it shows. And I said it last time we did this. If you're a good moto rider, you're probably going to look good on the bike if you're comfortable on the bike. This is another good one right here too. Delano Peak, regular rear shock or long shock. Now, I don't know. Aside from length, I can tell you my Delano was a completely different bike once I put the X2 on it.
Yeah, but I rode your bike both ways, and I think it's a good bike both ways. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't change. It's one of those situations where that additional travel is at the bottom. It doesn't really change the way the bike rides. It just gives you a little bit more depth. It's not like you're lengthening the shock and picking the bike up. It doesn't.
No,
It
I
doesn't
hear
really
you, but
change it that way.
again, like Clyde here is saying he got a large Fazari with a new Float X and it got an improved pedaling platform out of it.
I think that was the Float X,
yeah,
not the longer travel.
yeah,
I feel the same way. Mine came with a long shock, but it had a super deluxe, not ultimate, just a super
yeah.
deluxe with no compression adjustment. And that bike did not climb well. It didn't have a platform in lifts for the last pedal stroke. It would soak that pedal stroke up, and I didn't enjoy climbing it. And then we put an X2 on it, completely changed the bike. And so, you know, I have the shock that was on it on another bike, and it works really well. But on that application, that shock just was not the ticket, and the X2 works much better.
I agree. This is a funny one. Austin threw this out. He started 2 minutes in front of Richie off the top of Trestle, and he was breathing down his neck at the finish line. Yeah,
I'm
terrifying.
surprised you stayed in front of him, Austin.
Yeah, dude,
that's
yeah.
impressive, dude. That
Yeah.
guy's a freaking animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just pull over or crash.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. One of the stories that we tell in the clinics is we were at Winter Park one year, and we were on the far lift. So it was Rob, Richie, and I, and we get to the top, and we hop off, and we're going down.
Yeah, you go down a fire road to get
Yeah,
to
you go
the
down a
start.
fire road to get to the start, and he starts like jibbing S turns back and forth, and he's loading into one side of the road and jumping to the other side.
Yeah, he's cutting. He's literally cutting berms every time he sets up a corner and jumping across the road.
The sound was unbelievable. It was guttural is the only way to describe it. And I just looked at Rob and shook my head, and I just don't understand how the tires stayed on. And, you know, for us, Austin, you have some semblance of how fast somebody like him goes, but so many people don't. And it's just crazy that people think like, oh man, I think I might be able to ride close to that level. No, you can't. Like you need to be there to see it, because the disparity is frightening, absolutely frightening. And okay, so dude, this is great. And I didn't plan this. Like you said, you're surprised he stayed in front of Richie. Well, this was the other.
That's impressive.
This is the other thing Austin said. So the fact that he stayed in front of Rude should give you some context to the level of rider that Austin is. Austin's a good rider. He says the ride series made him think about his riding technique every time he rides.
It's important. You know, you can only get better if you recognize you have somewhere to go. You have more improvement in you. If you think you're the best, then you're probably not going to get better.
Well, and the great part is Austin came through a ride series event as an employee for SRAM, and we did all these events for SRAM. And the idea was the new employees were what we were doing it for. And they were excited about the feedback from the new employees. Dude, the best feedback was from the longtime employees. The best employees had the best feedback.
Well, I think the best part of that whole opportunity was the fact that the best guys discounted it out of the gate.
Yeah.
You know, the best guys are like,
the best people.
Sorry, the best people were like,
because I think there were some ladies too that discounted it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, Robert, I'll give you my take on it, dude. I don't run coil. Like I
had that I just had a debate on the trail with some guy about that. I was talking to Stephanie. She had a coil on her Firebird. Now she's got an air shock. I told her I prefer the air because nobody's going to invest the time to get a coil set up just right. And if it's not just right, it's a problem. It's not the best it can be. And if you get it just right in one place and you go somewhere else and you need to change it, unless you have a case of springs and the data to know which is going to suit you, it's so much easier to just change the pressure or add a volume spacer or do what you can do. You have so much more adjustability with a coil, so much more variation with it, or with an air shock.
With an air shock. Yeah, it's amazing. What about this? Casey coming back in.
Boom,
$9.99.
Casey.
He's asking about value in adding a dirt jumper to the stable. I say yes, dude. Like
I say yes too.
If you're in a position where you can get a dirt jumper, I would say do it.
Well, let me throw that into my aspirations list for 2022. Is I would like to get a nice dirt jumper and actually try to
actually
try to jump it, because when I watch guys, when I watch people, mostly men, I'm sorry to say.
No, that's true, but dude, there are some chicks that are good.
When I watch people like Christian Pepper, when I watch that guy air it out, and when he pops off these vertical jumps and looks like he could literally eat his lunch in the air, and then comes swooping down, it looks so fun, and it kills me that I can't do it, and I want to. So I'd like to get a dirt jumper. There's a great pump track out on the west side, one of the Velo Solutions ones, and I'd like to get out there. I'd like to make a commitment to get some time out there and get better with that.
Yeah, and what's rad is, dude, when you hit a pump track, you get in great shape. Like, it's a brutal workout. What about this one? As you've been talking, I've been trying to figure it out. Paul Orton asked what trail will be the highlight of the year for us. I'm telling you, what's jumping out right now is Zen, man. That was fun.
That was cool, but I think about that trail, Horseface. Is that what it was called?
No, hell no, dude. Some stuff there was fun. That was not a highlight.
I thought it was a highlight. That was a crazy trail.
frightening.
Yeah,
What was the one
but
from the top? The one from the top was really fun at that place.
was that Crazy Train or something?
I don't know. Might have been, but that was fun.
Yeah, that was a fun ride.
Paul, I'm going to think about that one for a little bit. Definitely. We're speaking to you, Rob. Yes, Brian,
Yeah.
the answer is yes. We're going back out in February for some Ride Series events back out there. So the first weekend of February is going to be Houston. And then from Houston, we're heading over to Phoenix. We're going to do a San Diego event. And then we'll be at the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival. Come join us. But yeah, we're going to do how to set up clipless pedals and cleats, because that's one that Rob has been talking about for a long time. And I think it's pretty valuable info.
Yep.
What else we got? Best travel recommendation from NWA, Rich. Yes. Oh, from NWA. Ooh, Rob, help me here.
Travel recommendation for a bike?
For him to leave. He lives here and he's super fit, dude. Super fit.
I say come to Phoenix, Josh. Don't be silly.
Yeah, Josh, I think Phoenix.
Riding's great in Phoenix all year round, buddy.
I think Phoenix is great. Hard to go wrong with a Winter Park or a Angel Fire, right?
Yeah, well, when the season's right, but I would say in those times you could ride at home.
Yeah, but again, it's different. Like this place is great, but it's not. It is what it is. Like he's probably ridden everywhere here. Like he can roll out on his Stumpy and do a 50, 60 mile ride.
Well, I think the great thing up with a place like, well,
I mean, dude, farther, Knoxville, Windrock, Knoxville was fun.
Yeah, that's true. I was going to say the great thing about coming to Phoenix is you can go to Tucson and you can go to Sedona. I mean, there's some epic places, but Utah's the same thing. I mean, it's a farther drive, but you can go to a handful of amazing places. Yeah. You could do like a long weekend and hit 4 or 5 different insane spots and ride some epic rides.
Scott, dude, can you re-ask that question? I'm sorry. You said at 8:22. There's no time. Oh, no, wait a minute. There is. I'm sorry. I'm like, dude, I don't see a timestamp here. Scott, oh, this one's for you, dude. He needs another gear for better climbing. He's got a 30. Oh, I know where you're going to go with this one. The wheels are turning.
Are you running an Eagle cassette? 32. Yeah. I mean, I run a 32 on everything, and I literally never get into the 2 big gears.
Yeah.
Third gear on my cassette is, all right, I guess, would you consider that 10th gear? Depends how you're counting. I always count from the biggest down, but
yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know. That just seems super low.
I'm shocked. Like I can't imagine a 28, dude.
Like, I'd love more
climbing up the Pyrenees or something.
Well, yeah, and it's or just a super steep fire road. But like, you remember when we were doing that Firebird first ride when the Firebird 29 came out, and you were kind of struggling climbing, and I told you go into a harder gear, which seems counterintuitive, but with works. A 29-inch bike, if you can pick up the speed, those bikes really reward momentum, and if you can pick up the speed.
So do this, Scott. Send Rob a message, Instagram at the Rob Drew, and give
shoot me some more details, and I'll give you my 2 cents on that.
So Chris is asking, what rides are we going to do for the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival? Well, so hang on here. We're going to be riding, and the current idea, and I'm pretty sure this is what it's going to be. We're going to be there leading rides for a specific manufacturer. I'm having a phone call tomorrow to figure it out. So first and foremost, we're going to the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival because we like the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival. I don't want to get into the politics behind the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival and everything that's going on. I just want to go there and ride. And I like it. And I had an idea for what we could go do for a specific company. They liked it. And so I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. So at least once each day, we will be doing a ride with this company. So other than that, just hanging out to hang out and have fun. We'll walk around the festival. The plan is to do like a Q&A or like a panel discussion with Rob and I and potentially somebody else. And then that's what we have set up for right now.
But as far as what trails we will ride, hard to say.
What rides? I don't know if he's asking trails.
Well,
I mean, we're going to figure that out. We'll do stuff around the festival. I think
we'll do a better job of I really got caught with my pants down this last time.
Yep.
But the fallback ride always works out good. Thunder Mountain and Teacup are great.
Yeah, we'll do those.
The Ant Hill is always a blast, but I would like to do something less traveled that requires a little more endurance for the people.
We're going to do a little bit more due diligence on the front end to vet people, and we're going to be a little bit more specific about what rides we're doing and what the skill level and fitness level is. Caleb has a good one too. He comes from riding street bikes, which, man, that's a big thing. Everything from braking to turning. It's just all drastically different on a mountain bike. And that's a tough one, Caleb. You're going to really have to unprogram some of those things that you're dealing with. And you brought up a prime example of turning.
Consider the weight of the machine is the big difference. You know, you need to use your body mass to force that bike to turn because it doesn't want to. But a bicycle, it's completely different.
Burke asks or says, "Thank you, Feature Chat, about training. We're going to talk training." Again, we will. So I'm really pushing for at least Rob and I to do this once a week and maybe get it on like an actual podcast platform where you can listen to it after.
Yeah.
But I have a big whiteboard of all this stuff. Training is a very specific one, and we're going to talk training, and we're going to try to make some content, low production value about training because it can be super simple and have a major, major impact. So it's coming, trust me. This is another one that's coming. So Chamberlex 360 talks about in percentage, how influential is the psychological aspect when it comes to mountain biking, in your opinion? And we're not going to go too deep on this, Rob, because this is going to be its own discussion. The psychological piece is massive, and I think too few people give it the credit it deserves.
Yeah, the simple thing is you've got to be comfortable, and that's a psychological component. If you're afraid, if you're fearful, you will do things that don't yield positive results for you. And you will increase your risk. You will increase your risk through adverse input if you're fearful, and that's part of the mental space. You'll be confident if you're comfortable. And that's one of the things you have to practice that.
Yeah, I agree. Scott, you can get a hold of Rob at the Rob Drew. Go through Instagram. That's the easiest.
The Rob Drew on Instagram. Slide into my DMs. Slide into my DMs, Scott.
Garrett Hubbard says Rob's haircut looks good and the beard is all time.
Thanks, Garrett. I miss you, buddy.
I agree, buddy. When is the date for the San Diego Ride Series? I am going on the app right now to let you know, Robert. I think it's going to be February at some point, February 19th and 20th. So
it's creeping up on your birthday.
You're getting close, dude. Right after. So maybe we'll do a little
celebration there.
A little celebration.
San Diego celebration
of it. Yeah. And he's going deep, talking about the mental impact. You think there's a subgenre of MTB that needs more psychological work? I do. I think there's multiple subgenres. Like it's an athletic endeavor. And I think any athletic endeavor, you have to embrace the psychological piece of it. And we could silo that a couple different ways. If you're a competitive athlete, I think you need to embrace and train the psychological piece. But if you're just a weekend warrior or somebody who's out to have fun, I think it's just as important to work on the psychological component. You're going to work on it differently, but I think it's still just as important. And I think if we can do anything, I think providing some insight on that would be hugely beneficial. Like, think about this, Rob. Take of all the how-tos, if we could just maybe provide some perspective to people on how to think about what they're doing.
Well,
And again,
I was just going to say, like the cross country guys, I mean, those guys need to mentally prepare to get in the pain cave and freaking live there. So that's gnarly. I don't think they have to so much consider the technical aspects of what they're doing. They just need to be a machine. But like the downhill guys and the big air guys, I promise you, those guys visualize their run. They see the lines. They know where they need to be. I can remember when I raced motocross, I could sit on the gate and I could visualize the start and picture I would see myself getting a hole shot, and then I would do exactly what I visualized.
Yeah.
And if I was in the right headspace, it always worked.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think that that's real for a lot of people. You can see it when they're, if you watch Supercross and you see the guy sitting on the line, they're kind of picturing like, where do I want to be and when do I want to be there?
Oh yeah.
When the guys are doing
Rampage, you see it.
Yeah, Rampage or Crankworks, where they're up on top in the box getting ready to take off, and you can see them, slopestyle, going through their routine in their mind, picturing where they need to be, and they're trying to see what their cues are on the course. And I think it's tremendously critical that your mental game is solid. And if it's not, I don't think you're going to be a contender. And I think having been a person who competed at a high level in some sport, I think that if you've never done that, it may be something that you're missing, that you may never get to experience it. And it doesn't mean that your life isn't going to be fulfilling, but for me, it was pretty neat to be able to do that. And then, that's one of the things that's the biggest asset racing bicycles is
how many races did you think your way to a win?
Oh, there were plenty of them. I couldn't say, I couldn't hit you with a number, but I can tell you so many times that was the key. Was I had to see it in my mind to believe it was possible, and then I could deliver.
Well, I think too few people realize how cerebral enduro is. And the more you think about your racecraft and then apply it, the better your race is going to be. And I think that filters down. Like, again, we're not going to get too deep into it, but I told somebody this the other day when we were doing some private coaching, because they wanted to jump. Everybody wants to jump. This guy's been riding since August. I mean, as short time as there could be, but super athletic, understands it, very intelligent, thinks at a very high level. And so he worked through a lot of it, and he did what needed to happen, but he did it in too small of a window. And what I tried to explain to him is, I said, you're a bit of an outlier. I said, because there's usually two silos. There's people like us who started when we were very young jumping bikes. So those impediments, that fight or flight response that everybody should have, isn't there. And that's because those neural pathways developed when we were very young. Well, then as you're older, you try to hit a jump, your brain should be trying to shut that down. This guy was in one of those weird places where he was able to compartmentalize that somehow, some way, and that wasn't happening. And he was going for it, but dude, he was like spiking into the takeoff. And so once I showed him that on video and we kind of extrapolated that, it made way more sense. And it's a scenario where he was a smart dude and he thought himself to the point he was at, and then it almost turned off. Like he came to this wall that wouldn't let him process what he needed to do to move past that. And I think that is the biggest piece for most people. Think about what you're doing. And there's a lot of people that don't. It's just go for it and see what happens and get lucky or don't get lucky. I don't buy that. I don't buy into that. And that, I think, is a challenging thing for people sometimes because they don't want to do that. There's a lot of people that want to escape riding their bike, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, there's something to be said for thinking your way to being a little bit better each time you ride.
Well, I hear people talk about the escape part. So for me, how the escape occurs is my brain is so occupied with all the details coming in, it pushes the things that might be troubling me in my daily life out of the way, pushes them to the back seat because I've got to
Yeah.
deal with this important information that's happening in real time, and that
Yeah.
for me is the escape. So I worry when people say, "Oh, I don't like to think. I just want to get on my bike and ride," and I'm like, "Ooh, that's
Yeah.
frightening. Hope you have good health insurance."
What about RME here? He says, you do a great job of simplifying the technique. So often he suffers from paralysis by analysis after watching something, and many people do. And what I come back to is, why wouldn't you want to simplify it as much as possible? I think that's the best way to go about it. Make it as simple as it needs to be. You can't make it simpler, but you don't need to make it any more complex. And that's a tough thing. I think some people do that. I don't know why. I have my theories on why. I think some people just, they don't have enough relevant experience to have a solid command of the technique and therefore explain it. There are other reasons, but that's one of the biggest in my opinion.
Yeah, if you're accurately explaining something that will work, there's really not much that can go wrong with it. But if you're
Yeah, but accurate's open to interpretation sometimes.
well,
You could
no, no, no,
accurately.
wait. I'm not talking about that.
Okay.
There's what is, and then I mean, you can fuzzy it up with a poor interpretation, but I'm saying if you clearly describe something that's actual, and I don't now I'm thinking about the ways you can try to contradict me, so I'm just going to stop right there.
Oh, no. I'm not trying to contradict you at all. I'm genuinely curious on your take on this, because I think this is a common theme. I don't know if there's people out in a teaching capacity that strive to keep it as simple as possible. I think there are some people that, for whatever reason, make it more complex than it needs to be. And I again, why is that? I don't know.
Well, I think an example that comes to mind is if I was trying to describe to somebody how to change a tire on a car. One of the things that I would tell them is take your lug wrench and loosen the lug nuts before you jack the car up. The reason for that is because then the wheel won't try to spin as you try to loosen the lug nuts. But if somebody misunderstands me and they loosen the lug nuts all the way before they put a jack under the car, they could have a bad outcome. So it's incumbent upon the explainer, upon the teacher, to think ahead about somebody's ability to misunderstand that detail and emphasize it going in. Like, I'm not telling you, this is what I'm telling you, and this is why. I'm not telling you to do this other thing. And I think that you and I are fortunate to have had a lot of experience
And that's
with
where it
things like
comes from.
this. And that's what
That's
most
where it
people
comes
don't
from.
have. That's
So
an incredibly
essentially,
important ingredient is
Yep.
experience.
Yeah, you could essentially make the generalization that you can only be a good coach if you have a decent amount of experience. It's a generalization. It's not an empirical fact. But what I would tell somebody that came to us that, like somebody came to us, I have every certification in the book. I want to be a ride series lead instructor. How old are you? You're 21. Not going to happen because you don't have enough life experience. Plain and simple. And this is
Yeah,
great.
now that guy could come to work with us, and
Totally.
in less than my life's experience, he could gather what we think is necessary to be effective. But that's the way it's got to go.
And this is it. This is great. To teach is to learn twice. And again, I have no problem saying I ride technically at a level now at 44, in probably the worst shape of my riding career. I ride at a level now technically that I've never even come close to. And it's because of the amount of teaching. I'm able to look at it so much differently. And I have this deep understanding of what I'm explaining. And my lab are all these trails.
Well, and it's funny
Always thinking about it.
when we get together and ride, I'm actually getting better right now. I think a lot because I've done a lot of programs with you recently. And when we are doing the programs, we are exercising the techniques. And
Yeah.
it's easy for me when I'm riding at home on my own trails to get lazy and not be technically sound. And
Yeah.
when you're always doing it more than I'm doing it, and it shows in your riding, especially in turning form. Like you talked about at that BME race, where if you just focus on turning well, all the other pieces fall into place.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing, because it's very technical. But if you do it right, if you utilize the tools to be effective, it always works. It always works.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. I watch, well, like that raw. We did that raw with the stump jumper. And when I watched the first cut of that, all I was focused on was my riding from a technical perspective. I had to watch it again to kind of step back and put the lens of, is this a cool YouTube video? Because all I was looking at was, I remember filming it and I remember how it felt, and certain spots in particular. Like the best part of that video, I come through and there's like this berm, like shark fin thing into another one. And I jump out of it into the next one and jump out back onto the trail. And I've hit that trail many times, and I've always wanted it to be a certain way, and it never was until that moment. And right after that moment, I ate shit. And
That's
part of it
awesome.
was because I got through that section way better than I ever have. And I normally manual out, and I was too far and I crashed.
That's one of those funny things where the trail will change when the speed increases. So, you ride a trail for a certain amount of time, and it's what it is. And then all of a sudden you find a way to bring more speed in, and all these different opportunities present themselves that weren't there before, because the speed was the ingredient you needed. But then it doesn't work the old way. Then the speed is the thing that breaks the cycle, and you can't hit your marks like you could before. Everything changes.
Yeah. Well, and Casey talks about the best riders on the planet probably being terrible teachers. Again, you could make that generalization, and part of it, you hit on a great one, is trying to put yourself in a position of a novice rider, of somebody who's looking at something. And we do this all the time.
I struggle with this, Casey. I struggle with this all the time, especially with technical climbing. I've put the time in to make the pieces fit, and so to me, in certain circumstances, it's fairly easy for me. But even more than that, my style is very understated. So the things I can do sometimes that are technically difficult don't look very difficult when I do them.
Yeah.
And so it gives me trouble when I'm working with entry level riders, because I make some of the things that are advanced moves look like they're very easy to do, and then when people try them who don't understand the nuance behind them, they have bad outcomes and they struggle.
Well, what's crazy is that should lend more credence to what you're saying. And sometimes it doesn't. Like seeing you do something that looks that foolishly easy and then trying it in some context, you should realize, oh my God. But Pat says it great. He has 2 teenage sons, and it took him a long time to understand they need different direction. And if somebody asks right now, what's one of the biggest things that makes the Ride Series unique in a coaching space, I would say it is our ability to deliver
our ability and our
message.
willingness to
Yes.
not give up. Like if I tell you, if I explain something to you and you're going, yeah, but I can see in your eyes you don't understand what I'm saying, I'm gonna try to find a different way to get my point across to you. And it's my responsibility to make you get it. It's not your responsibility to understand me. Well, and Rich and I appreciate that. That's one of our are fundamental principles, and that's a thing that's very hard to duplicate.
Well, and again, it's said here by RME, best instructor equals credible, approachable, and humble. And that's tough. That's tough to do because, humble, I think, is a perception. And you have to balance that. Like credible, again, let's drill down on credible. What is credible? Well, I think credible is credible. Like, it's just, are you credible? Well, no, it's funny that
I think let's drill down. I think credible is credible. Well, that says a lot.
I didn't
Thanks
mean
for that explanation.
I didn't mean for that to be funny, but what I mean by that is it's not.
I think good is good, and that's just it.
That's kind of what it comes down to. Is credible is credible. Like, it's an empirical sort of thing. Are you credible? Yeah. Okay. We don't need to break that apart. Like, again, do you have multiple certifications, or do you have a life experience that'll?
If you're a person who has accomplished something relevant to the task at hand, and the people you're speaking to are aware of your ability to do that, that makes you credible.
I like that. I'll give you that. Yeah. What? Let's look at this one. So I took a clinic this summer, maximized learning in a short period of time, learned so much in one day of riding. Yeah. Well, and again, I think seeing the videos, it helps, because if you watch the videos and you come to a clinic, you understand the vernacular, you understand what we're saying. But also, and that's great, because he said learning, seeing, and doing. And yeah, that's how it worked. I remember. And it's the process. Like, part of it is
many people learn things differently, and so figuring out what type of learner you are and how we can manipulate the curriculum or the drill, the element, whatever it is, to fit your individual way of taking in the information. That's our responsibility, and we thankfully have a lot. Between the two of us, we have a lot of options.
Yeah. The new intro, are you credible? It's, we could say that, but that just opens up a whole nother realm of.
We have beards, dude. Of course, we're credible. Look at us.
Well, again,
we have
comes
beards
back
with
to
white hair in them.
It comes back to bike reviews. Like, am I credible to give bike reviews? I mean, I guess you could say I'm credible to give bike reviews. Like, there's a pedigree there that would say yes. But that being said, do I do good bike reviews? No, I don't do good bike reviews. And I don't do good bike reviews because I don't have not even a command. I just don't have an understanding of the engineering behind bikes. And I don't, for whatever reason, think at that level to decipher what's happening. If that makes sense.
Just told me to drive, so I drive.
Again, it comes back to the cold trickle thing. Some of the good coaches are the ones that work hard and crash a lot to really be able to explain how hard to do things for novices that naturally. But see, AJ,
like your latest turning video, you did all those crashes.
I did all those stunt crashes.
Method.
But see, I don't know. Like, what I come back to, AJ, is if you're crashing a lot, why is that? Like, again, general statement, you shouldn't crash. Like, you shouldn't crash that much. And if
proper technique utilized effectively will equal minimal to no crashes.
Yeah.
That said,
well, and
I had a horrible pedal strike.
You had a horrible pedal strike, but
crash, though.
Hang on. I got to go somewhere. With this, because there's a coach out there that highlights some of their
failures.
And I guess failures, we'll say failures, a lot. And has been pretty good, in my opinion, at marketing them to say, hey, I make mistakes too, like everybody does. And I came up with this response that I subsequently deleted, but the gist of it was, I make mistakes and I crash and I post them periodically, but that's not my place. That's not my thing to do. Not everybody wants to see me crashing over and over again. I'm in a position of influence as a coach to try to help people get better. And my feeling is if I post me crashing, it takes some of my credibility away, especially crashing in things that I shouldn't be crashing in. Like as a coach, my feeling is you should have a really good grasp on every element of bike riding, every element. You don't have to be great at them, but you should have a grasp on every element of bike riding. And I'm not here to highlight my failures over and over again. If you think I don't fail, I'm sorry that you feel that way. But if it makes you feel better for me to highlight them over and over, I'm not doing my job right. Like something's just not working right. So I don't know. I think that's an important part of it. And yeah, being approachable is understanding others and having lots of tools in the toolkit. And you said it.
Tools in the toolkit, man.
You said it.
That's a subject we talk about a lot at the Ride Series.
But again, it's great to have a vast toolkit, but you got to understand how to use them. You know, you got to be proficient in using all those tools.
Otherwise, why are you carrying them around?
Yeah. Yeah, man, we got to stop, dude. Like I keep looking at the number of people, and what I said is when it gets below 70, we're clipping it. So damn it went back up to 73. So we're going to
on the bike reviews. You touched on something real quick. What I was going to say about back to kind of what we started with sponsorship was my personal experience as a pivot factory rider was that even the people in my community here weren't interested or didn't give any credibility to anything I had to say about Pivot's product because they felt like I was bought and paid for. And so I think that that's another problem that sponsored athletes have to navigate.
Yeah.
If you're on the team, you know, it's difficult to share your feelings with the general public about the product that you utilize because they expect that what you're going to say is something that you're, you know, quote unquote paid to say. And that's unfortunate. And I experienced it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is RME sums it up and he's rolling. Peace out, everybody. You guys can roll out. We're going to wrap this soon, but Humble's being willing to always learn from others and evolve your game. Dude, evolution's key, man. I mean, I know how much I've evolved as a rider. The Ride Series has evolved immensely. It's helped me evolve as a person. And I think that's the key. And I think that's for everybody, whether you're a coach, whether you're an established rider, whether you're a new rider, you always have to be willing to evolve, learn from others, and I think vet that. And I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's always been amazing for me about the bicycle is the fact that, and we talk about this a lot, it's so fun when you start and you're terrible. It's super fun when you're terrible, and when you're just starting out, improvement comes fast, and so every time you ride, you can see a very noticeable improvement. And for me, that was something that always kept me coming back for more.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you have a crash or you get hurt, that can really shake you, and that can cause you to do the things that make crashing more likely.
Yeah.
And what everybody needs to understand is the reason we developed the Ride Series was to try to address that specific problem. If we can give you some tools to allow you to progress more quickly and more safely, you're going to be a cyclist, and you're going to start to see the benefits that we live with every day that we get from having bikes and riding bikes. And that's the hope. That's the goal.
Yeah. So Chris, it's great. He says it's appreciated when we make a mistake and keep it in. I will always do that. Like I'll never not put that stuff in. It doesn't happen a ton. And there have been some times where it just doesn't get captured, but if it's there, I will
I just think of like the San Diego video.
Yeah.
When we show up at a place we've never been, and the same thing on Zen Trail. I have all that footage from Zen that I was going to cut into something and I never did. But when we go to a place we've never been, there's a learning curve. You know,
yeah.
that one section. How many times did I try that? And I didn't even get it.
No.
Finally, we just had to keep going because we didn't have time.
No, we'll get it. Let's end with this one. Justin asked a pretty good question. For a rider looking to grow their skills, is it better to start with a bike at their current level or buy a bike that they can grow with for a long period of time? I think it's the latter. I mean, if you can get something that you can grow with.
It's funny he just said that because Jen had a friend come over today to go riding with her. And you remember the story about how Jen got her bike, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Jen's friend comes over to ride with her, and she pulls this Schwinn out of the back of her van.
Schwinn.
Please. Literally. I don't need to say anything more. It was a Schwinn. And I was freaking horrified. I mean, I really like this friend of Jen's. And I just said to her, there is no way on this planet I'm letting you go out on this trail on that bicycle. So I grabbed the Izzo, threw a 35 millimeter stem on it, slid the seat forward, dropped the saddle all the way down, and sent her out on that. And she killed it. She freaking killed it. But the moral of the story is she got to see what the experience is really like.
Yep.
There's nothing worse for me than when I see somebody go out on like a Target or a Walmart bicycle they paid $100 for, and they go, I don't think biking's really for me. Well, what you're doing right there is not what I would call biking. That's not for anybody. That's horrifying. There's so much that you don't get of the experience if you're not on a quality piece of equipment. But I understand it's expensive and not everybody can afford to throw down that kind of money. Yeah. So that's why I want to do some setup videos and things like what is important and what isn't. Yeah. What do you need to spend the money on? What don't you? It's hard because the line that comes to my mind is from that I think it's Hustle and Flow movie. If you want quality, you got to pay for that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, and it's funny. Scott jokes, "I'm overbiked." Where is it? Scott Ripple, "I'm overbiked." Yeah, well, and again, dude, it's one of those things where if you have the means to buy a decent bike or a good bike, I'd go for it. But I think there's a pendulum. And some due diligence is in order. Like, I'm not going to throw a number. I guess we could, like $3,500, $4,000.
Well, the other thing I would say,
I think you can find some decent bikes there.
If you can't, if you don't have the money to spend on a really good bike, do you have enough money to spend to demo a bike? Just go try riding a really good bike and see what that's like, because then maybe it will be something you'll aspire to. And instead of spending money on beer or something frivolous, you'll save that money. Dude. You'll save that money to get to a point where instead of buying like Air Jordan tennis shoes, you'll save the money on the things that you don't absolutely need until you have enough to buy that bike. That's
Andy. Rob is not a true G. You are so far off on that one.
What?
Man, he said, "Rob with the hustle."
I am a true G, dude.
You're not a true G, dude.
Yeah,
a true G would not. A true G would not throw double horns, dude. Look.
Well, you wouldn't know because you're not a true G.
I'm not a true G. I have no problem saying that.
I am. Andy, it's cool, dude. You know.
Although, wait a minute. Maybe I am a true G because this is my channel and we've maintained over 70 people for 2 hours.
Pretty good. Minutes. I think it's because I am so entertaining is the reason they're sticking around.
I don't think. I know that's why. I know that's why. I'm not going to admit it. Oh, wait a minute. Everybody heard? I thought we were done. Oh. Okay, we're going to finish, dude. This was rad. I did not expect.
This has been awesome.
Yeah,
I've had a good time on a Sunday night. Everybody, I hope you're having a great New Year so far. Tomorrow's back to reality, unfortunately, back to work. But yeah, we'll all get together soon and do this again. Rich, I'm counting on you to set the schedule.
Yeah, I think we'll throw another one out here midweek and kind of go midweek after that. If we can squeeze a midweek one in and then have like a Sunday as a backup, we'll certainly do that. But touch base with us and let us know, probably on Instagram at the Rich Drew, at the Rob Drew, stuff that you want to hear about or talk about. Like I made a couple notes. The
and if anybody had any questions that we weren't able to get to, just whoever you intended to hit them or whoever you think can best answer those questions, just shoot a direct message on Instagram. It's probably easy.
Yeah, definitely. Instagram is a great way to go. Stay positive out there. You know, it's getting into winter. I know the weather's going to be rough. People are going to be stuck inside on trainers. we're going to do everything we can.
Not in Phoenix.
No, I know, not in Phoenix, but we'll try to get some low key fitness stuff out so people have some idea. And, if I can break out this week to do some stuff with Sarah, I'll certainly do it, and we'll figure out where we're going to put that. But yeah, we're just trying to be.
I don't think I'll look super attractive doing my little workout here, but
you will. And I think it's important because what you bring in is you're a broken man doing a workout.
Let me show you what a feeble old broken dude does.
Feeble,
to be better on the bike.
Man. But yeah, we're gonna wrap it up because I have to pee so bad, and we're gonna end it up with some high praise. Mark the segment. Great work, fellas. Man. Thanks, Mark. Means
Love
a lot
you, Mark.
coming
Can't wait
from you, dude.
Can't wait to see you in February, buddy.
And actually, Mark, I'm gonna say this right now. How about we have you on?
That would be awesome.
Yeah. How about we have you on ours? So let's connect on the gram.
Let's have your people call our people.
Yeah.
Put this together.
Yeah. Okay. Which is us. We know that. Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm out, dude. I'm gonna try to wind down from this and get some sleep. Wake up to some more snow tomorrow.
Good luck with that.
All right, dude.
Don't have to shovel sunshine out here.
Nah, we don't have to shovel. It'll melt off. All right. Peace out, dumpers.
Over and out, everybody. Thanks for joining in.
And peace out.